Hey, Cass.
Hey.
So we've obviously done a lot of work in the last month, and I've come to realize, a lot even before now, but I've really come to realize that like IT companies kind of suck.
Yeah, I mean, what's your like reasoning, I guess?
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm super opinionated, of course, but I mean, okay, so we've done enough of like takeovers, we'll call them, right? Where clients will leave their current provider, come to us, and then we kind of start unraveling all of the things that kind of happened for the client over the past however many years they've been in business or with that company, et cetera, and just find like the rat's nest of stuff.
Right. You're backtrack like you're kind of learning the history of the company as you go on.
And then I come to realize like how simple some of the fixes are that just were never applied.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even anything technical. Like, even if it's just like customer service, we get on the sales side of our team, we get so many people that are like, we just want someone to answer the phone.
Right.
Or the person who answers the phone, they need to be helpful. It seems like common sense stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, am I looking at it too simply?
I don't think you're looking at it too okay, it's simple to you and it's simple to me because we're in it and this is how we conduct ourselves. But I guess for someone to be successful within IT, they need to have more than just technical knowledge.
Right.
And they need to have the ability to, interact with people and kind of understand who they are and what their story is. And in doing that, it's kind of easier to solve their problems because you can then kind of figure out what they're trying to do,
right,
where they're coming from a lot easier instead of I think a lot of tech oriented people, when they see a problem, they'll assume a lot. They'll assume things before they even talk to the person.
Do you mean like they'll assume and try and apply a fix?
Exactly.
Or do they just assume and just get angry before they even start?
It's possible either way, but usually for me, from what I've seen, they assume about a fix first, and then they'll kind of like front to that in front of the person they're trying to help when they actually start interacting, instead of waiting and letting the person they're talking to tell their story.
I see.
And when a lot of the time you can kind of get the idea of what's going on if you let them tell the story of what happened.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of companies let that happen. And so then you'll have like, a non-fix be applied and then they're like, okay, this was it. And then you just leave it.
And they just close the ticket or whatever.
And then they close the ticket. And that can kind of cause some issues because you as the end user on the other side of it was like, oh, I was never validated. I was never
heard.
Never heard. And so that discourages you from then calling or communicating because you feel like there is no communication.
I see.
So,
and some of the things that I've noticed when like working with these other IT companies is that like a lot of times I'll be in contact with the leadership side.
mm-hmm.
So like operations director, not often I ever talk to the CEO of a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm working on a takeover, it's always usually the operations director, which
mm-hmm.
makes the most sense. And they seem so disconnected from what's actually going on, right? And sometimes I'll have conversations with these people and they're good conversations. But then I look at like the tickets that we inherit,
mm-hmm.
or from time to time, I'll talk to like one of the techs and they just don't add up. It's
mm-hmm.
like the experience or the level of passion or the care or whatever from the higher level leaders don't typically pass down to the techs.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, I feel like a lot of the leaders are either super disconnected from their team, right? They just want everything to run and don't want to worry about it. Or B, sometimes in the operations side, you get someone who runs it who doesn't really know technology at all.
Mm.
And so they lean on the understanding of their techs, which is important to a degree, but they don't know when to call BS. Right. But you've worked on it on more of the tech to tech side. Right. Like when we do transitions, usually work with like the tech that was on that account to take over. What are some of your experiences?
I feel like direct experience that I've had mainly like for one example, for one tech that I worked with, he would like me and him sat next to each other and went, ticket to ticket, what we're kind of inheriting. And all of them had kind of the same, issues behind them, which was they tried something and then they stopped communicating.
I see.
And then they just kind of kicked the can down the road as much as they could with a lot of them, even though like they didn't try to delve into the issues as much, and they didn't try to kind of really sit down and really try to troubleshoot.
Right.
I think they tried very like surface level stuff, and then just, hey, it's not working. Let's just, keep saying, hey, we're doing stuff.
And then just what, like sit around all day?
I don't know because it's hard to say like what they did, but I mean, that's kind of like my initial thought.
Yeah.
Because then when I came in after and I looked at the issues, and it took me 5 minutes to be like, oh, this is how you fix it. Because I was like actually trying to troubleshoot. And I felt like if you have another tech that actually tries to troubleshoot, you should be able to figure it out. But that's like the conclusion I came to, is like they weren't actually really troubleshooting anything. They were just, hey, let's just try to uninstall and reinstall stuff as much as possible. I guess that's like my initial impression for like one example.
So is it undertrained? Is it not knowledgeable enough? Is it the wrong people? Is it the wrong personality?
I think it might just be laziness.
It's possible. It's possible.
I think you have to have someone that really respects the role and respects kind of the user base you're working with. Because whenever like I work with somebody, I highly respect that their time is valuable and what they're doing is valuable to them, because that's how they make their money.
Right.
And that's how they're relying on their technology to perform within their job. If their technology isn't working, their performance gets a hit.
Big
their
time.
Productivity.
In some cases, they can't work at all.
Right. And I feel like I take it upon, like, I feel like it weighs on me, and I value like the ability to kind of like get them going and productive again.
Right.
I don't have that kind of disconnect where I feel like, oh, it's their problem. It's not really a big deal. I feel like it's their problem really makes me want to kind of, I don't know. It's really hard to kind of like word
Their problem becomes your problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if I'm not saying all techs are like that.
Of course.
I guess here whenever we get someone new, I always want to instill the fact that there is someone who is relying on this to work.
Yeah.
Like you need to make sure that you value that.
Yeah.
And they're not just like a, person that's bugging me. Like,
right.
Instead I could be on my phone and, like, you know what I'm saying?
Playing Candy Crush.
Right. Like I'm not trying to, not have the phones ring. I want to be able to help people.
Yeah. We have clients that sometimes don't call us often.
Right.
And I mean, sure, great. We have a client, but I like being kind of utilized.
Yeah,
right?
I do too. And it kind of hurts me. I know it feels like we're kind of going on a tangent, but it's okay. It kind of hurts me. It kind of hurts me when I hear that, okay, let's say we have a client that hasn't called us in a while. And like our assumption is, hey, we don't know anything until you say anything, right? Like,
yeah.
But if they start talking about, if one user comes in and say, hey, we're all having all these issues.
Yeah, they come in like hot and like, oh, everything's wrong. You need to call us right away immediately. And everyone's mad.
Right. Like no one's helped us. Like that kind of hurts me, because I'm like, I'm available. I'm here.
Yeah.
Like
I get calls from it. And this doesn't happen often, which is good, because we try and communicate with our managers of other companies. But I'll have a manager call from time to time, like, all these people are having issues. Like, what the heck is going on with your team? I'm like, okay, who?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell me, and I'll go on the ticket board and search.
No one submitted
nothing here. Let me look up their phone number. No calls from this number.
Right.
Okay, give me another one. Maybe that one's just a fluke. We'll go 5 down the list.
Right.
I'm like, I can't help you if you don't let us know that we have an issue.
Right.
And then, then they say, oh, you know what? Okay, let me pass it along to my team. They pass it along to the team, and then they realize, oh, the team is just too busy to put a ticket in. But they just, but what happens is, and this is to no fault of anybody, they'll have like an operations meeting every so often.
Mm-hmm.
And, how's everything going? If someone's like, oh, yeah, my computer, is just acting a little bit weird. And someone else be like, oh, yeah, mine too. I'm having this issue. And then someone else, and then all of a sudden the operations manager is like, what the heck? We have all these issues and they're not getting fixed. There's a gap there of information. And then they kind of make the assumption that we're not doing our job.
Yeah, like kind of overreaction. Maybe.
Yeah. So, but moving back though, right? So when they call and they say, hey, why aren't you doing your job? We have the answer to say we are.
Right.
But we have clients that leave other IT companies to come to us for a variety of reasons. One is responsiveness. That's like one of the biggest ones, one of the more common ones. But sometimes we run into IT companies that do a really, really good job.
Right.
Like especially on the back end.
Yes.
Right. On the network side, they're really good on the server side. They build things well. But when it comes to the front side, like helping the people, they're just not, they don't have the personality for it, or non-existent or whatever. Or like one time we acquired a client that the IT was good, the service was okay, right? Like they could live with it, but they didn't have like one person to call when they needed something.
Right.
Right. Like an account manager, for instance.
Right.
And then something that seems so simple, they've asked for it, they've asked for it, they asked for it, they asked for it, and then no one assigns an account manager.
Right.
And listen, I mean, some of these accounts don't require a lot of attention, but once in a while, hey, I need to buy a laptop, pick up the phone, call an account. It's a sales thing. Mm-hmm. You make money off of that ultimately, not much maybe, but you make money off of selling laptops, $5, $10, the way things are today. But it's like, it just seemed to me, it seems like super simple stuff that can help like a company kind of turn around. Right. And it's not like we do anything crazy.
I think I think the thing that we are really good at is we're good at satisfying all the human elements of IT.
That's a good point. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, because I think like I was alluding to before, people within IT try to remove the human element too much. And with anything in life, with any career path, any sector, until there's autonomous everything,
right?
There's got to be some human element. You got to interact with somebody,
right, in
order to get something done.
Right. Well, like in our podcast, I think we talked about like how to get a job in IT, and I say this: it's like we do it. I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times from my mouth. We do this for people who help people to accomplish something people need or want. Then they help someone to accomplish something they need or want, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, we're not doing this for a system.
Right.
Like a server is not like, oh, thank you so much. It's like, I'm a server. If it could talk, like, I'm a server. This is my job. Like that's it. There's no emotion. And the server doesn't really care to work or not work. Right. It's the server's there to do a job for a person.
Exactly.
More or less. Right. So that's important. So if you were to give advice, I guess, because I think this is really where like what I want to get out of your brain. If you were to give advice to a tech or an IT company or whatever, right, on how to like streamline their stuff, make their clients happy and whatnot, like where would you start?
I would start by listening. That's like the first thing. Like you listen to their story, listen to their desires, their needs, and take that, and we use our IT brains to process it.
Right.
Okay. We can say, okay, yeah, we can do what you're asking, obviously, but then add, some optimizations to that, obviously. So like we can say, hey, you want a server for this, or you need us to like give you this X amount of licenses or this service, whatever. And then we take that, we process that. We say, okay, this is the plan. We took what you said. This is what we're going to do. Let's do it. Like that. But the first thing is like, you have to listen, understand that you can't just come in guns blazing and just say, hey, we're going to do this. And then I guess maybe.
I mean, more or less, yeah. Sometimes clients need a little bit of like what we'll call tough love.
Sure, yeah, right? They do. But you still need to listen to what they're asking for.
Yeah, because ultimately you're doing it in good heart.
Exactly.
It's not just to close a ticket.
Right.
I wonder too, and obviously I don't know the ins and outs of every business. And by the way, just in our area alone, there's like 10 or 15 competitors in our zip code. Mm-hmm. Not even in our zip code, there's like 10 or 15 competitors, right? Some people that like do homes and want to do businesses. Some people who do like cameras and kind of dabble, and other kind of companies. And then you have people who like were phone providers, and the whole phone craze is over because people can just spin up licenses for $10 to $25 a month and just do it on their laptop. Or it's easy, right? So these companies that are like phone companies are like, oh, we need to like get into IT because that's where the money's at, right? And then they take their techs of like their phone techs and say, okay, you're an IT guy now. And that's it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of these business owners, especially in the IT world, I think when they start, they really have a passion for what they do, whether they use phones, printers, or they just did IT or whatever. I think they started with a passion. But I think over time, they saw the dollars. And I think the dollars overtook the passion. And I think that people became so money focused that they just said, hey, whatever it takes to just put more money in the company's pocket so that way I can sell it one day because that's what everyone's doing, building these companies to sell them or whatever they're doing, right? That's what we're going to do. And so I think in turn, that affects, okay, it's fine. We're not going to spend money on systems to make our lives easier. We're not going to spend money to document things. We're not going to spend money on people. We're not going to give good benefits. We're not going to do this, that, whatever. We're not going to hire more than we need, or at least exactly what we need. We're going to hire just a little bit less because that's what's easy on the books, right? And if you took like a top level view of their financials, I think you'd be able to like, why are you spending money on this? Why are you spending money on that? Cut this, cut that. And you could like reorganize the funds. I think the money's there, but I think there's two big issues. I think like the owner probably starts to spend on stuff, and that becomes their financials. Like, oh, we can't afford another person because we have all this money going out. And you look at like, why do you have 4 cars? I mean, I don't know that this is true for everybody, right? But why do you have all these things that you don't necessarily need? Why don't you spend it on your people?
Right.
But I think also what happens is that I think people who start IT companies, let's say from scratch, are probably IT people typically, because they have to do the work themselves and then kind of grow from there. I don't know if they have the business mindset to say, how do I charge for this? And so, because I come into competition when we do this, and I'll like deal with competitors that are literally half the cost of us.
So what you're saying is that they leave too much money on the table.
Way too much, right? So not only like on the services, on the monthly services, let's just compare apples to apples and not talk about anything else. We're sometimes double what the competitor company is. Now we win it because ultimately they pick the competitor company first sometimes. And they're like, oh, now we see why. Because you guys pay your techs more, which means you get better techs, which means you get more operations, which means you get better software, which means that there's more automation, which means et cetera, et cetera.
More partnerships.
All that stuff, right? And then on top of that, too, you have to know how to negotiate the partnerships, how to get vendor relationships, how to get the best price for your client. You have to fight for them. It's all right. It's not about how much money I can shove in my pocket.
So basically what you're saying is it's all on the mentality of the person driving the ship.
It's all on the mentality of it's always, right? Because ultimately, okay, fine, in this company, right? If something goes wrong, it's my fault. Yeah. Period.
It's always your fault.
But really, like it is.
Yeah.
It
You
is.
suck.
Yeah, thanks. Like if you mess something up and it's big,
Yeah.
it's my fault.
Yeah. Because you hired me.
Because I hired you and I didn't train you right. But ultimately, okay, fine. I hired you, I trained you, I told you how to do it, you messed up, right? It costs the client. It's my responsibility to fix it.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Whether they leave and I have to reallocate funds or, I don't know, I'm just making things up.
Because you take that risk.
But I take the risk. So it's ultimately my responsibility, which makes it somewhat my fault.
Yeah.
That's okay. And that's all part of business. But my point though is like, okay, so going back to people, right? So the techs, they start a company, they don't know how to price it, they become half the price of us, but then they realize that they can't afford the good people because they're not charging what they should be. And let's say that this person is very, very good at what they do. So their service initially is going to be great, but then they hire someone at half the rate of what they should be. You think that person is going to be at a higher level eventually?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe, but less likely.
So if they are, right, what happens?
They leave.
They leave because they want to go find a higher paying job.
Right. So, I mean, essentially what happens is you end up with a really watered down, like,
exactly.
And
then the owner gets burnt out.
Right.
Which removes the owner from the equation of care.
Yeah.
And that's what I think causes a lot of what happens, more so than that people are just spending it on 4 cars.
Yeah.
Right. I think that happens more often. But then to add to that equation, I think that they also leave money on the table. What I mean by that is, okay, so we walk into a business, right? And they have like a really old, crappy phone system.
Yeah.
Their IT company could have sold them a phone. I mean, phone systems are within our realm of responsibility nowadays.
Again, like leaving money on the table. Like any opportunity you see to kind of make their lives better, you got to kind of broach the subject with them and say, hey, look, I know you like doing it this way potentially, or you see that this is a fine way of doing things, but this is the new way. Yeah. This is the future.
And to add to that, like there's been times that we go to client sites and we see the way that they do things, and we may not have a vendor for that's a partner yet. But like I've done research and you've done research. Hey, we've seen this company accomplish the goals of what we think our client could use. Let's introduce the client to the company. And if they're interested, let's try and get a vendor relationship and let's sell it to them. Right. We make money on the product, right? Because we're a company and that's how it works. But also we can then provide a really good solution for our clients to accomplish their needs and goals. It's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are afraid also to try new things, right? This is our scope. We're not touching anything beyond this. We're not going to try anything beyond this. You're responsible for setting up users and all these systems, and we're just going to set up their emails and their phone numbers. And
that brings up a good point, because I know you love the kind of prospect of bringing in new tech, new technology, new systems, and letting us test it.
Yeah.
Getting super familiar with it,
Yeah.
comfortable, and letting us decide whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But then after that, once we decide, hey, this is great, because we know it so, we use it so much, we can then flip it around and say, hey, to our clients, this is great. This is the next great thing.
And
we
we've
should use
used
it.
it.
And we've used it.
That's right.
We've vetted it. We're experts in it already.
Yeah. And I typically try never to sell anything that we don't use. Even if our clients like have, and it's, once in a blue moon, you have to, but like, with like single sign-on stuff, right?
Yeah.
But, we had clients that wanted it. And before we even sold, they were like, let us get it.
Exactly.
Let us use it. Let us make sure we know it. Let us troubleshoot every issue that we could run into with deployment. And then once we're good with it, we'll do training on it too.
Right.
Then we'll say, hey, not only are we going to sell it to you, but we're going to take care of everything for you. We're going to implement it. We're going to bill you. It's one bill. You don't even have to worry about billing the other, paying another vendor, whatever.
Right.
Everything's on us. Let us handle it for you.
Yeah.
And I think that clients really, really like, and that's like the extra stuff.
Right.
Right.
And the only reason why we're able to do that is because we're thinking about investing in new things all the time. And like you said, other companies that are in that boat where they're kind of trying to cut cost, for whatever reason, they don't think, hey, let me invest in these new things. They don't think in investing at all in the company.
You're right. You're right.
So, I mean, why though? Why do you think you were different though? Because like when you came into this, were you already business minded, business savvy, or did you already know in order to be successful in the field, I need to have more of a business background to succeed? Because I don't know, let them know, I guess.
Yeah. My background isn't anything per se. It sounds kind of funny. Like my background is technology first.
Right.
Right. So like my whole life was IT really. So like I went, from different companies, worked at a nonprofit, did consulting, went to school for it, ended up teaching classes at the school. Like, that like my background was technology, but I am an observer. Like me, I'm like a hyper observer. I watch everything. I ask questions like crazy. I want to know everything. I just want information. I want knowledge. And so going through life, like I like talk to clients who are successful. I'm like, how'd you get here? I'm not afraid to ask a CEO of like a company that might be, what's the word? Like daunting or whatever.
Intimidating.
Thank you. Intimidating. Right. I'm not afraid to be like, how'd you get here? What's your story? What did you do in this situation? Right. I'll become friends or like, acquaintances with some of these people. So that way, when I run into something, I'll call and ask some advice. Like, hey, what do you do in this situation? How do you handle money? That taught me a lot. And then watching other successful people and how they became successful, learning the ins and outs of the dollar more or less, right? Really, really helped me. But then to me, it's ultimately about how much I care. And so like, okay, so for instance, you have a kid, right? You love your kid. You want to buy your kid whatever. The company is like that to me, right? This is like my child in a sense.
So you want to spoil it.
I want to spoil it, right? So I want to get the best people, the best resources, the best clients, really, right? Because we even vet our clients a little bit. We want to make sure that we're going to be a fit for them and that, we can support them in the best way possible.
Right.
And so it's really that. And like, as I've grown the company, I've learned more about business through either advice, watching people, or my own mistakes. And I think the biggest thing is adapting and overcoming those, right? So when I make like a mistake or I learn something new, it's not like, oh, I've done it this way for so long, and if I change, that people are going to know that I made a mistake. I don't give a crap, to be honest with you. Hey, I messed up. We're going to do it this way instead. And I promise you it's going to be better for the company. Here's why. What's your opinion? How many times when I want to introduce a new policy, rule, business decision, idea, et cetera, how many times do I like bring you guys in, like, what do you guys think about this?
Often, yeah.
Just about every time I make a big decision, I want buy-in from my team.
Right.
Because if I make a decision top level and the team hates it, that's going to be a problem for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so it does two things. One, it gives me opinions on how the team is going to react to it. Right. And the team feels like they were a part of the decision, which you guys are. Because if you guys all told me, hey, this sucks, every single one of you came to me like, don't do this, I wouldn't do it. Like, okay, you know what? Great. Something I want to do, but not something that might be best for the company. So anyway, through that, I've learned a lot of business. And honestly, like I've worked at a lot of places, asked a lot of questions, met a lot of people, a lot of family who had businesses too, never really grew them big at all. And I watched a lot of what to do and what not to do. And
right.
and some of the biggest places that I've worked at, I've learned the most of what not to do versus what to do. And I think that it all comes down to really, really simple principles, right? Pay the people well, give them the right benefit, give them the environment to work, right? And what I mean by that is like, don't micromanage. Don't make it, a living hell to come to work every day. Make it enjoyable, right? We got to be serious. We got to get our work done. We got to be excellent. But in doing so, if we find the right people who are, naturally we're going to get there.
Right.
So like, if we goof off a little bit and, shoot some hoops, when we have like 20 minutes of downtime instead of just grinding and like doing paperwork, we're going to shoot some hoops. We're going to enjoy our time. That's like my mentality and mindset. Like I would do really, really bad at a job that requires micromanaging because I'm not, and it's not that this is a brag. I'm just not capable of it. I'm not capable of being behind you every day. What are you up to? Mm-hmm. How's it going? Have you finished this yet? Have you finished that yet? Right? Check-ins are necessary. Following up so that way I know how to answer a client if they ask me questions is necessary, right? I'm going to be prepared, but I don't want to be down your throat trying to figure out, what's the next task you're doing? Why'd you spend, 15 minutes instead of 5 on this task? Why were you gone for an hour and 10 on your lunch break? It's only supposed to be an hour. You got to work an extra 10 minutes today. Like you laugh, but I've met people just like that who literally have counted my hours to the minute.
Yeah.
And I'll have to go through. I'm like, okay, fine. I worked actually 55 hours instead of 40. Are you happy? Where's my 15 hours back? It sucks. Those work environments suck. So I went on a tangent, but ultimately what I'm saying is you got to provide the right environment for your team. You have to pour the right amount of money. And you know what? As the owner, you have to pay yourself last.
Right.
You have to pay yourself last, right? I mean, I am not the highest paid person on this team. I'll admit that. Not. Don't care to be, right? We are trying to grow a company. I'm going to pour every dollar into this company to keep growing it. We're doing something really, really well, and that's what we're going to keep doing. At some point, yeah, great. You know what? I'll make a decent salary, hopefully. Lord willing. But like to me, it's not the time yet.
Right.
It's not the time yet.
You're waiting until she can walk.
More or less, right? Or run. And when you think about that in like the kid scenario, like your kid runs the house, not you.
Yeah.
Everyone who has a kid knows that your kid runs the house, right? Yeah. They sleep more than you do. That's okay. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, there's no other real, I'm sure there are lucky situations where you don't have to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, like I'm coming from zero investment, $0 invested in the company. I started with $0. I had to kind of work to make the dollar, to spend the dollar, to make the dollar, to spend the dollar. So it's not like I came in with this big loan or like nothing.
Right.
Nothing invested in from other people. I'm 100% in myself. And so, there's sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice that you have to make when you do that. And some people just aren't okay with the sacrifice, right? They take the money out too early. They want to pay, they want to get to that 6-figure salary as soon as possible.
Not patient.
They're not patient enough, right? Or they get burnt. Like, it's time for me to make this money. That's fine. Maybe it's time to sell it to someone who cares and just become the right-hand man.
Right.
Take your salary,
right. Yeah.
Take your salary, but it's not, it's not for you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like in general, it's just based on like the intentions of whoever's leading the company. If the intentions of whoever's leading the company is good, that's a start, but I guess that's not enough too.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have a business mindset, be willing to feed the company all the nutrients it needs to grow, really.
Yeah.
And then give all the gardeners within the realm, all the proper tools.
Yeah. And then let them go and do their job.
Exactly.
Let them go and do what they're good at.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that the majority of IT companies have this problem, or would you say it's just in our area?
Okay. So here's my limited scope. I hear all the bad because people leave and tell me this stuff. Right. So the companies that are good, they're not leaving. The companies that have good IT people are not firing their IT company for no reason. It's a big process to move IT companies.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking to the companies who have had good experiences with IT. We're always talking to the bad ones. But I'm also in the industry. I also talk to people who are other owners. And I just, it's still the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's still the same stuff. Now, there are a ton of good IT companies out there, but there is an overwhelming majority of bad ones. And like so much so that like in emails and sales calls, I instructed the sales team, don't use the word IT. Because it's almost a trigger word for people. When they hear it, they just don't want to talk about it. Like, I hate IT. Don't talk to me about IT.
Okay, because is it like an accepted evil almost?
Yeah, more or less. And only because people just like hate it.
Right, because it's never good.
It's never good, right? Things break and they can't get it fixed right. And it causes them hours. And then what I tell business owners, like, if your people don't like your technology, employee retention today is really important.
Yeah.
And if your technology sucks, ultimately, it may lead to you losing people. And they're like, oh, it's just technology, just a computer. I'm like, yeah, but that's how they do their job.
Right.
And if they're frustrated every single day because they can't get their job done properly, it takes them extra time. At some point, people forget about the money. Like, this is miserable, and they leave. And some people really will leave over a computer.
Yeah,
it's possible.
It is possible. Yeah.
And so, and we've helped companies kind of regain their trust in IT. So many good reviews from people, which is awesome. I mean, I think we do a really, really good job at that. And it comes down to the rapport that you guys build with people too. It's not just like, hey, we're going to fix it, but it's like, hey, how's your day going?
Yeah.
And the person, like, hey, so-and-so, like, how is it? But the other funny thing is that I've noticed it's a trend today. Everybody is an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I know so many people who have like full-time jobs, director level jobs, and they have their own business on the side, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to run a business. That's okay. I mean, that's cool. But like, if it's a side gig, that's fine. Some people want to run it and then they like lose focus in their own job, and then they kind of lose out on both, right? So that's the other thing is, like, some of these people who are, want to be entrepreneurs, and then they end up like getting a big client, like one, and then they make the jump.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose that client. They lost their whole business. Like, and I'm talking like a big client as in like someone that can fund your operations to have like 20 people on staff. Let's just say there are clients that exist like that.
Yeah.
Right. There are companies that exist that only have one client, believe it or not.
Which is kind of crazy.
It is crazy to me. Right. And really, there are companies that exist that only have one client. So then they build this company like, oh, we're a $2 million company. Okay. So who's paying you guys $2 million? Oh, this one company.
Right.
Also, what happens when they go out of business?
Right. And like, so are we talking about like IT companies that are outsourced that only have one client?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
But
it's
like,
not common, but it happens.
Well, like, what's crazy about that is because now that I've been in this position for a little while and I've had previous IT positions, it's really easy to kind of learn your client when you only have one. Yeah. And just learn how to deal with the little issues. You're
dedicated, right?
Exactly. But when you start to like move on to different sides of things, like, sure, your fundamentals and your basics of IT and how to solve problems, but there's always like stuff that it's hard. I feel like you think a different way when you deal with a bunch of different clients.
You do.
And I feel like a company like that would never, even if they got another client,
they wouldn't know how to handle it.
They wouldn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
They treat it like that first client and not be really flexible, and then end up losing that client potentially.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, so that's a one-off. Those are things that are fairly rare, but I have seen, but it's fairly rare.
That's crazy.
It is. It is. And here's the other thing too. I think the bigger problem is that you have companies out there where, you have techs that might not know how to learn, in the sense of like, you don't give them new things to try. So like, my goal obviously is that our level 1 team moves up to level 2, our level 2 moves up to level 3, whatever that looks like, maybe from 2 to projects, or however, right? There's got to be a track of success in the company. And that includes pay raises, that includes bonuses and everything. There has to be a evaluation of everybody to say, hey, did they earn a bonus? Which would be, hey, you know what, this is your job and you did above and beyond. Here's a bonus for that. Or a raise. Hey, this is your job. You also added more things to your job. We're going to give you more money for that. Or whatever it looks like. You have to be there before somebody asks you, right? Like, so far in the company's history, and I'll share this. So far in the company's history, no one has ever asked for a raise. But raises have been given. So far, no one's asked for a bonus, but bonuses have been given. Because ultimately, we have to make sure that we are paying people according to their worth and value. And if they have to ask you to evaluate what their value is, and then you give them the raise, like, they're happy. But if you give them the raise before that, you look back and say, okay, here's my team. It's been a 6-month evaluation or 1-year evaluation. This is the time we do bonuses and raises, other than like the normal, like 3%, cost of living increase. Who deserves a bonus, or who deserves a raise? And it's not so much like who's my friend. It's who's worked their tail off, or who's taken on more responsibility, or who's someone that's worth more than what they're getting paid right now.
And it probably gives the employee true validation, because it shows that, whoever's dealing with, that side of things is actually paying attention and witnessing their hard work.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of positions out there, the person that's doing whatever job they're doing may feel like what they're doing doesn't matter,
It's
or
true.
what they're
Yeah.
doing is like underlooked or undervalued, and that makes them kind of bitter.
I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, that definitely kind of contributes to, having a great work environment, because your culture is, we've like everyone's like looked after and always like, kind of validated to what they're doing and like what their value is to the company.
Yeah.
Like they're not just a cog in the machine. They're actually all important.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. Everyone has a job and a role here. I mean, otherwise we don't need to hire people for these things.
True. Yeah.
I worked at a company one time for a month and a half. I sat in a cube for a month and a half, and I got 0 tasks. And I asked for tasks, and I asked for this, and they're like, yeah, eventually you'll get something. I'm like, how? And honestly, to me, it's not about the money. I'm like, I want to be valuable. I want to do something. And after a month and a half, I quit. And like, oh, the director wants to talk to you, or the CTO wants to talk to you. I'm like, I'm not interested. I go, you guys have bigger problems. And even during the exit interview, I'm like, you guys don't need to hire this position out. I'm like, I'm sorry, but this is a waste of money. And I get it. It's not nothing to you. I mean, it's a big company. It's nothing to you, but this is a problem. You need to address this with your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun with that advice. See you later. But on the flip side, though, not everybody could work here, and not everyone could be our client either, right? Because we are a fast-paced environment. And it's not to say like we work like, a crazy amount of hours. I don't think we work a crazy amount of hours per se. I think it's more, there's a lot of changes that happen in the company as we grow, new softwares, new tools, new things to try, new things to learn a lot, right? I mean, how often do I introduce you guys to like a new tool or software or whatever, like on average?
Feels like every day now.
It feels like every day.
Just yesterday, you were like, oh, I have this one new software. And then the next day, you're like, oh, I found something better. Oh, never.
Yeah, or never mind. Yeah.
Never mind.
Right. Yeah, it's potential, right? I mean, it's often because I'm always like, how do we be on the cutting edge? Like, how do we be the best of the best? And ultimately, it just triggers onto my clients. Like, how do I provide you guys the best? How do you provide the best to our clients, et cetera, right?
I don't even feel like you're on the cutting edge. I feel like you're on the bleeding edge.
That's what you talk all the time.
You're like, well, how's it going back there, R2?
It's some meme culture for you if you don't know it. Yeah, I mean, it's funny.
Like you got a wide open throttle right now.
Yeah, but it's always like that for me. And that's just how I operate. And I don't know that everybody can like follow with that, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think in the grand scheme of things, if you don't do that, you're doing a disservice to your clients. Like all of our clients, I think we do our best to give them the best possible experience. And when we go home at the end of the day, or like when I go home,
I live here. That's funny. No, you're not.
Like I feel like I sleep well at night knowing we do the best and possible for our clients. We're not like, shorting them or, giving them some lackluster solution or anything like that. I feel like we do all the research we can. We give them the best products, and we leave it all up to them, I guess, at the end of the day. Like hopefully they can use it all.
I mean, that's true too. Obviously you can't overwhelm people, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, so ultimately, like, I hope people don't hate IT in the sense of like, I hope they like
IT.
I know you do.
I just like it.
But I just like it also. I don't know. I hope people don't hate IT, but I really do kind of hate other IT companies. And the only reason I say it like this is because it almost makes it harder for us to do our job. Because everyone has like the opinions and everyone's so scared. But I don't blame them one bit. Like if I was put in these situations, and I have been with like, let's say marketing companies, I hate marketing companies because I've tried one and they suck, and I try another one, they suck. And I'm done. I'm done with it. But I know that we could provide something that's like way above and beyond.
Of course. Like, especially when you like look in contrast with like some previous IT companies or single man IT companies that we've taken over, and they end up making like super generic server passwords that
no, don't talk about this, please. It drives me crazy. I have to spend an hour and a half to actually crack to find out it was something super simple, and I could have guessed it.
Generic password 1 2
1
3
2
4
3 4 exclamation point. Yeah, so
like just stuff like that. Just you don't expect it.
No.
It boggles your mind. It's like you expect some high level thing, so you're like trying to like
you give people the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You're like, oh man,
must be super secure.
IT person's got to be decent at least.
No.
Nope. Oh, 1 2 3 4. Come on, come on. Like we're done with these days. Yeah, I don't know.
It's okay. I still use my like password 1234.
Don't ever.
That's
This
how I
is-
log into my computer.
No, it's not. I guarantee it. This is why we scan that stuff.
Yeah.
We do. Oh man. Well, anyway, I don't know. That's just kind of a brain dump of like what I was thinking about all day today. I just wanted to talk to you about it.
So do you just like hate in your mind? You're just like, man, I hate other IT companies.
No. I really do give every IT company the benefit of the doubt. I get excited. Like when we take over an IT company, I think people find this weird. I get excited to talk to them when they're good.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, why? Like, you know, you just stole a client from us. Why are you talking to us? I'm like, no, that's not like that. That's the business side of things. But like, I appreciate the way you guys set some of this stuff up. Like you have other issues that we're going to take care of, right?
They just
I
give
don't
you the
really say
cold
that.
shoulder.
Yeah.
They're like, leave me alone.
They really like, there's been times where we take over a company and they're like, hey, you've called too much. I'm like, but you know, you guys haven't given us all the information that we need. Of course I'm calling too much because I need this information. And we have other people who are like, you know, they talk with you.
Right.
Have a quick conversation. Hey, how's business? All business is good. What are you guys facing? I love that because I get to network with other people and understand, yeah, they're competitors. Yeah, I'm going to take over all their business. I mean, but like, that's just the aggressive side of me. But I really do enjoy talking to other business leaders, owners, and even people who are not like in the decision-making process. Like, how are things over there? And, you know, you get to talk to all kinds of people. And like, this is the hyper, like, I want to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I get to learn so much from even text to say like, oh yeah, I like it here. We do this, but you know, sometimes the leadership is a little detached. And I'm like, okay, mental note, don't be detached.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, you know, mental note, don't be. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, do you think there's like room for kind of like I don't know what the word is. It's not a coalition or like maybe like
like an organization.
like an organization of like IT companies that like every once in a while they come together and have conferences and they.
I mean, we're going to one in a sense, but that's
Right.
but that's vendor led.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, but then you're also talking about like geographically, like, do people fly in? Is it over Zoom?
Just in the locality that we're in, kind of like in the Metro Detroit area.
I mean,
Do
yeah.
you imagine that?
The thing is, so many IT companies don't want to talk to their competition.
I
They
guess.
don't want to like share the secret.
Well, not really. Like, I guess, like, to me, there's not really any really secrets.
You would think, but I mean, people are really, really weird about talking to their competition.
Like, hey, I use SharePoint over.
I mean, right. But
Don't tell them we use SharePoint.
Shut up.
That's our secret sauce.
I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know. But I mean, I think we're doing something good. I know clients love us and, you know, we're on the right track. And for any IT company out there that's listening, sorry. But also, I don't know.
Prove us wrong.
Prove us wrong. Really prove
Come
us
on that podcast and prove us
No,
wrong.
no.
Call in at 313.
No. I'm not playing this game. On that note, I think we're just gonna. Call
You know,
this
that
a
would be
quit.
actually really cool if we took call-ins. I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe one day we will. I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to that.
I mean,
but
our
we're not
live. Our live. Well, we're not.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was a surprise to Cass.
I thought we were like on Channel 4 News right now.
No,
Like, hello
obviously
guys.
not. Hello everybody. No.
We should stream live on Twitch.
Yeah,
and see,
one of these days.
you know, our
Twitch is
grand total
Twitch
of
is
one
dead.
viewer.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get our podcast views up before we stream.
Yeah.
So
Help us out, guys.
anyway,
Support us. Send us free stuff.
don't send us nothing.
We're
Stop
cold out here.
It is
We
cold.
need food.
It is cold in Michigan. I hate it here. I don't hate it, but I hate it.
It's
hate the weather.
It's even cold under these lights.
Yeah, sure.
It sucks.
I'm sweating.
Can you like pay for the heat again?
we need more clients. All right, man.
Well, on that note, on that bombshell,
Enjoy your evening.
enjoy your weekend.
I'll see you later.
See ya.